So by now, I'm sure we all know that this weekend is the People's National Party's annual conference. I believe it's the 86th annual conference. And I said to myself, you know what? Why don't we take a look at what the conference may be like? What will be the topics? Who may be making presentations? And so on and so forth. I think that you'll find that interesting because we Jamaican people, we love to make predictions. We love to guess what may happen and then sit by and watch and see if it happens and feel good when it does. Not true? Yes, indeed. But before we get into it, let me give you my customary welcome to Jamaica 411. Thank you so much for stopping by, keeping me company as usual. If you're here for the first time, welcome, welcome. Please do remember to subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, as well as share. To my subscribers, welcome back. I do appreciate the support that you give the channel. And of course, you know the routine. We usually ask nowadays that you give the video a thumbs up from now, because when we get into it, you won't have no time for doing any such thing. You're too busy listening and commenting and so on. So please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up now, because you get quality stuff here. And I thank you in advance for doing so. All right, so the public session, where do we want to start? The private session? Private sessions, I think, is where they introduce resolutions that were passed by the regions, if my memory serves me right. And those resolutions would either amend the Constitution, or I do believe the bylaws, or whatever it is I want to do. I leave that to Karen to tell you all about that. The public session, though, that now we know about, because that is when you have the comrades coming from all over the island, converging on the national arena, where they have speakers addressing them, telling them what it is that has happened for the year past, and what the government is doing, what the government is not doing. And of course, you know that they will be telling the comrades about the conditions of the economy and what it is the PNP did in the past, what they propose to do in the present, and so on and so forth. So, when we look into it now, we are going to see now if we can determine what the topics would be for Sunday. My guess would be that the Integrity Commission's reports that were sent to Parliament to be tabled. Strangely enough, the Parliament is out until the 17th, which is next Tuesday. And for some odd reason, it will be the executive director who would have sent it out. He didn't think that it could wait to be sent to the Parliament next Tuesday for it to be tabled, or even sent it out this week. He just had to send it out, a week and a half before the Parliament was in session, running all kind of risks that this thing would be leaked. Well, it was, because Julian Robinson and Dayton Campbell seem to have known that the Prime Minister would have featured prominently in the special report which was sent to Parliament September 5 on the Thursday, right? And they were saying, or suggesting, I do believe they were saying, that there was a recommendation for the Prime Minister to be charged. They were anticipating that would cause the fall of the government, and by December they would be having a general election, so they were getting ready. That was the refrain. So I expect, now that the government seemed to have leaked the parts of the report to the media, and the media is carrying it, sort of turning the table, so to speak, especially the Observer, on Tuesday. So there was Dayton at Mark's conference on Sunday. I'm just going back a bit now to remind you. There was Dayton at Mark's conference on Sunday. According to him, double daring the Prime Minister to recall the Parliament so they can table the Integrity Commission's reports. But then, being foolish, he went and said that they want to have that report in their hands so that they can go through it at the annual conference, right? And pronounce whether or not the Prime Minister should be found guilty or not guilty in the court of public opinion, of course. That's what he meant. Well, he said that the Sunday, and he was carrying on, and then on the Monday, Nationwide News Network bust that the yes, the Prime Minister was indeed the subject, or is indeed the subject of the special report, and he was recommended to be charged by the Director of Investigations, but that the Director of Corruption Prosecution rejected that recommendation, and she gave her reason. She quoted the law and she cited some cases to back up her arguments. That was what was reported by Nationwide News Network. Well, that kind of threw a spoke in the euphoria for the conference and these ripe fruits that fell into their laps. Well, it didn't help, and it became really worse when the Observer on the Tuesday following, which was the Tuesday after Dayton said what he said, right? The Jamaica Observer put out that there were 8 politicians who were being investigated for corruption or illicit enrichment. That's what they said. And according to them, the breakout of it, because up to now, the PNP has been saying it's 8 laborites. Nobody on their side is being investigated. Well, the Observer was saying at the time that there were 5 PNP persons who would have been investigated and 3 laborites, bringing it to 8. Coincidence that it is the same 8 that is being investigated now? Perhaps. Anyway, of the 5 PNP politicians, one was a councillor, and the others would have been members of parliament, because we already know that no senators are being investigated, right? So that really threw a real damp on the situation, because all this time for over a year the PNP has been saying a labor rights. And now the Observer is saying and giving the impression that the information that they have, they got from inside the Integrity Commission. And they are saying it's 5 of them, the 8, are indeed PNP people. So they say from their source. So going into this conference now, they're going to have to kind of change the narrative. They're going to have to perhaps continue what Mark did by attacking the Jamaica Observer and calling it more or less saying that that the article was politically motivated, and they are in league with the Labour Party, right? So let's see them try that on a political platform come Sunday. What I expect them to talk about now, I expect them to talk about the IC report and the 8 alleged laborites who are being investigated for illicit enrichment. And they think that the cases have now come to a conclusion. They are expecting the files to be submitted to the Parliament in due course, and not long from now. Already 2 have been submitted last Monday by the Integrity Commission, but we don't know what those are about yet. So we expect them to be talking about that very prominently. And what will they be saying? They will be trying, because they're not honest, they're going to be trying to make out that the government is hiding the report. They don't want to, and they could have, and they should have recalled the parliament in order to have the reports submitted, and they can then pore over it and so on and so forth. They are going to make out that this is of great national importance, and therefore the government should see it as a priority to get at corruption if they're interested in corruption. That is how I expect them to play that out. You can tell me in the comment section how you think that they will, if any different. So they will play that up for all it's worth, and they will continue to claim that there are 8 labor rights. They will attack the Observer and say that they are spreading propaganda, that they are trying to save the government, and so on and so forth, and that their information is correct and there are no PNP people that are being investigated. Right? Expect that. Then now, I expect an occasional reference to the protests of those traitors in the United States. They will be looking at it in terms of how the government treated these individuals in the diaspora by making promises, and they did not keep the promises, and now cause an embarrassment on Jamaica. They'll be blaming the government for it. They can and dare not open their mouth and say they support them. But what they can do is exonerate them and claim it's the government that is at fault. I, for one, fully expect them to do that. I also fully expect them to be using certain languages, inflammatory languages, like, first time in Jamaica's history this has ever happened. Nobody, in the diaspora has ever seen it necessary to protest against a government, and they're going to use all kind of language and call the government. They are uncaring, and they are the cause of why Brand Jamaica was damaged, and all of that. They will be looking to blame it on the government, as it's a legitimate thing to do. It's for the government now to respond. So I expect them to play that up. I personally believe, and we believe, that it is Bunting and Goling that is behind that protest abroad. We believe it, right? And therefore, this could well be one of the ways in which they had intended for it to turn out. So they'll have something to talk about at the conference, right? You will hear how well and how prepared they are when they speak on the matter. I do not expect them to let this opportunity slip, not if indeed they are behind that protest. And worst of all, at the protest business crash, I don't think no more of them will go about them a protest, right? Because Rattigan went to New York. I don't know for what reason. He decided, despite all of what was happening with his foundation and the money argument and all them sitting there, he still decided to force the issue. Even after Mr. President announced that the donations to the foundation has significantly dropped, him still went out there. Because for it to be significantly dropped, it simply means that they have lost support. And when they went to New York, sure enough, here's about 10 people or 15 people turn up, which is not good. And I'm almost sure I won't be trying any more of that anymore. That's too embarrassing. So they must play it up for all it's worth at the annual conference of the People's National Party. And you'll be hearing, I anticipate and expect to hear them talk about that. Then now, the calling of the general election in Northeast St. Anne. I expect them to talk about that. I expect them to use language like, it's a big disrespect to the people of South Trelawney, who's been without representation in the parliament since September, and yet Despite the fact that they know that, what step did they take to force the government? If the government does not find it convenient, or the government is doing something wrong by not calling the election and allowing these people to have representation, what is it the watchdog of our parliament did about it? Did they organize the people in South Trelawney to write petitions or protests in order for their rights as citizens to be represented in the parliament of the land? Respected. Did they do that? No. They would have been sitting there knowing every Tuesday that there is no representative of South Trelawney and did nothing because they're not interested in democracy. They're not practicing it in the PNP, so I don't know why they would be interested in it, except, of course, in terms of them being able to occupy a seat. And since South Trelawney is not a seat that they were going to win, they showed no interest. Who is in the parliament that is representing the people of this country? Because if the government is not doing what the government is supposed to do, that's why you have the opposition. That's why we are paying $12 million a year. And Mark Golding must about $22 million a year. Right? Who is in the parliament that is looking out for the people's business? You're going to go on the political platform all over the place talking about the election was trumped up. Trumped up because the senator resigned and the MP resigned, and now the senator is being put in the seat. It's clearly a swap. What is the purpose of having you, Mark Golding, as leader of the opposition if you're not leading your membership to protect the rights of the people and the Constitution of Jamaica? What useful purpose you serve? You look at how long the government gave from the time when the announcement was made to nomination on Wednesday gone. It was what, nearly 2 weeks? About 2 weeks. Normally it's minimum 5 days, I think, to 16 days for nomination. From when you announce to nomination day, and then I think another 16 to 21 days for the election date to be set. And in all that time, you had many opportunities to go and organize those people, because you have a representative down there. Organize the people and insist that the Prime Minister should call an election, by-election there as well. You could have done the same thing in St. Thomas. And there's in town as well, where unfortunately the lady died. Well, maybe they don't want trouble that one because the lady just died. But surely, you had the opportunity. It's almost as if you were given an opportunity to go out there and organize the people and protest. It would have been plenty time for the nominations to be on last week Wednesday. But you did not avail yourself of that opportunity. But now you want to use it as a political football, kicking it here and kicking it there and kicking it there. You're not serious. Why did you not organize the people to go and protest? Why Patmore didn't do it in South Trelawney? So if he didn't do it, you don't want no election. So stop pretending. Right? If the government is not carrying out the function of its office, then you who are not insisting, you're just as bad as them. Matter of fact, the two are in the same boat. Because it must be consensus why there is no election held in South Trelawney. And why the people in South Trelawney not raising backside about it, I don't know either. But this is just one instance of where it appears as though the two of you and the government working together. Well, so now you're going to, I fully expect that you're going to be on the political platform on Sunday at the National Arena at your annual conference, talking now about the people in South Trelawney not having any representation. Because you want something to talk about. When you're not really interested. You could not have been interested. But you're going to take it now because you think there is some political mileage you can get out of it. Go ahead with that. Good luck with you with that. Then no. There's going to be a documentary. They usually have a documentary. And since Portia is everybody's darling, they more than likely will be featuring Portia, very possibly with PJ, and I'm sure they're going to prims up Mark in that somehow, right? What they're trying to do is to turn the PNP into a leader-centric party. But look at who it is they're trying to make the beneficiary of that um, desire of theirs to turn the party into a leader-centric party. Hmm? Look at the man, scruffy, ever look dirty, like when him turn up at the commissioning of the new vessel, the Coast Guard vessel, the Marcus Garvey. Hmm? He must have been told on the invitation that it was a formal event. And look how the man turn up, nine dirty jeans and some shirt. Look like he no bathe from morning. That's when turn up at the event and prims up at the front. 2 seats away, I believe, from where the Prime Minister is and the Governor General's wife. Hmm? This is a man that is supposed to be the leader-centric man for the PNP. Anyway, let's move on now. So what else is next? Well, after the documentary for Portia, I expect you're going to have more speakers. As to whether Dr. Peter Phillips will be there is another story. Don't know if there'll be any message from PG. I don't think there was one last year. Not at the public session, I don't believe. But that is that. I would expect them to be talking about a lot about the resurgence of the party's fortunes after the heavy defeat in 2020. They'll be talking about the local government election, which was held February 26, 2024, and I expect them to be saying that they had trounced the JLP, they had outperformed the JLP, and that they got most of the votes, they got most of the seats, and they got the mayors, 7 of the mayors. I don't expect them to be claiming that they win, but they certainly would be making out that they shocked the labor rights and they must call the election. That is what they'll be doing, I expect, right throughout, demanding that there should be a general election and soon. So I expect them to be talking about that a lot and the unity and so on and so forth. Now, I also expect them to be saying, as a taunt, that the JLP is now afraid to call the general election. I expect them to say that. I expect them to talk about the government and the JLP needing to call the election because it is now unpopular, and they are going to be referring to the polls and so on. They'll be telling you that the government is wicked and uncaring, the usual refrain, that the people are suffering. You're going to hear that a lot. Every speaker will be talking about the sufferation of the people. Of course, in politics, the people only suffer when the persons, the parliamentarians, are in opposition. When they're in government, there is no sufferation. Soon as they get into the opposition, so sufferation. And that is how it has always been. And of course, they're going to say that the government is not doing anything to help the people, and that, Mark asked them to spend 40 billion and they refuse, and blah, blah, blah. I expect Mark will be saying the things that he said before in terms of what it is that the PNP is going to do to transform Jamaica from a low-wage, low-tech economy to, and then he's going to tell you. He's going to tell you about early childhood education as a strategy. Unfortunately, that is a long-term policy because early childhood education is talking about children, I suppose, between 3 and 6. Is that so? I do believe. So I left school long time, so I not pay too much attention to something where everybody else is paying attention to. You understand? But I do believe early childhood education is about the little 3-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old, and 6-year-old, right? That they are being prepared now to go into primary and prep school. The foundation, that's a foundation. Now, when you set that foundation to a 3-year-old, it's going to take another 15 years and more before they are ready for the job market. And I don't know, I don't know how Mark can be saying that is a means for transforming the economy from low wage to and low tech to, I suppose, high wages and high tech. Obviously, if you're going to do that, that sounds like something that you want to do in the short to medium term. And therefore, you have to spend the money on the people of working age. So, early childhood education is something that you would do by and by, but it cannot be the main plank on which you expect to transform the economy from low wage and low tech to high wages and high tech. You're following what I'm saying, my viewers and subscribers? Yes. The two don't connect. The early childhood education is going to set the child's foundation so that in future we will have better performance at the higher levels of education. So the children can take advantage of the teaching that they'll be getting at the high school level and when they go on to tertiary. Instead of turning out children that have problems, and then by the time they reach primary, they fall further behind. By the time they reach high, they shouldn't even be there because there was a problem in the foundation stages, right? Yes, that is something that you need to fix, but that is not going to be the fix that is going to get the economy from low wage to high tech, right? You're going to be talking about a different type of job market, and that depends entirely on the businesses that are coming in or the incentives that the government gives to encourage businesses, certain kind of business to come in. And then you're going to have to make sure you have the workers with the skills to take advantage of those high tech. And there now is where we're not hearing any plans. We don't hear them mention anything at all about how it is that they are going to be training people, because that is not what they're talking about. I want you to listen to him on Sunday. He's going to repeat it. Every year he repeats the same thing. He's going to move immediately from speaking about moving Jamaica and transforming the economy from a low wage and low tech to high wage and high tech. And then he's going to move from there and start to tell you how. And he's going to go into the doing something about early childhood education. The two don't connect. It's going to take 15 years for them to pick to reach working age. So in 15 years, what it is that the country will be doing to take advantage of any high tech and high wages? Because you will not be doing anything to accomplish that based upon how you are presenting your arguments, Mark. So these are just some little words you pick up by and by that you think is what is going to make the people of this country come out and vote for you. It has no meaning at all because you don't have no plans. You're just stringing words along that sound good, especially to young people when they talk about high tech. Young people be impressed by that and think you're saying something when you're not. For the past 4 years, when people are insisting that they want to hear him talk about what it is the party is going to do, he has been under pressure to come up with some ideas that will be appealing to the public. So they they run these several polls to give them the information that they need. You will hear him talk about Jamaica needs a new direction. Jamaica needs a new direction because they ask the people whether or not the country is going in the right direction. And the people saying no. 50 odd percent, it came down by 6% the last time. We don't know what it is now. Apparently, people are feeling a little better off. After all, the minimum wage more than doubling Jamaican dollars, and it is now about $2.52 US per hour. A far cry from what it was, which was a dollar, maybe about 51, depending on the rate of exchange, some years ago. But the high cost of living is eating away at that, including the high transportation costs, you know. So eventually, the people will learn how to manage. I mean, in terms of how they spend the money, they will, make the money stretch, as we would say in Jamaica. That's the key. You have to go and shop around and find bargains. But it seems as if the more the merchants hear that people are earning more, what happens is that they keep raising the prices. And when that happens, what it is telling you is that the competition in the economy is not where it should be. When you have high competition, merchants can't afford to be raising them prices like that because then we'll lose out and go out of business. So Mark has been telling us that the country needs a new direction, and he's going to bring the new direction. The one thing that is missing, and it is most glaring of all the things that he says, is that he never said what direction he's going to take the country into. So there again is just another phrase that he has come up with, like the time come. A phrase, though it can have meaning, has no meaning for him because he has not put any flesh on that bone. There is no flesh on that bone. And what it amounts to really, that it is nothing more than hot air. Not to be taken seriously, because he himself doesn't take it seriously. Otherwise, he would have been able to formulate a direction in which to take us in. Wouldn't you agree? What is more, the policies that is being pursued by the government is the self-same policies that were pursued by Portia and Peter Phillips. Nothing changed, right? Because when the JLP wanted to change it, when it just came in with Audley Shaw, you remember the private sector told them, no, keep on the same track. So I want to know if he's not going to go on the track that we're on now, which was formulated by the People's National Party, of which he was a member, formulated by Portia and Peter. Where exactly is it that him intend to take us? Is he going to be experimenting with the Jamaican economy and mash up the country? He needs to tell us that. He needs to tell us the direction in which he plans to take us, since him said that he's going to take us in a new direction. You agree with me? Leave it in the comment section. Let me hear what you have to say about that. Anyway, that's it for me today. I thank you so much for joining me, keeping me company as usual. Please remember to share, like, and leave your comments. And until next time, take good care of yourselves and walk good.